to this emergency response, because you guys have been responding from an emergency standpoint in terms of food policy council, et cetera, even before we had this crisis. So maybe just bring people up to date a little bit about the city's response, and then the rest of everybody, let's chip in about what you're doing from an immediate standpoint. But also let's talk as the show progresses in terms of solutions and things that need to change from a systematic standpoint, from a governmental standpoint, even from a taxation standpoint. So Lethal, good morning, and maybe if you could kick us off.
Yes, thank you, Tom. So I'm Lethal Swami. I'm the Director of Food Policy for the city. That's actually a separate position. I'm a city official, and that's separate from the Food Policy Council, which is a commission of the city of voluntary residents volunteering their time. So as far as the city, during this time, the city is really focused on making sure our most vulnerable residents continue to have reliable access to food. So I am a very small department. I'm a department of one. So I've been working diligently to organize and collaborate and communicate with various food resource providers across sectors and geographies. So that really, means that I really rely heavily on community partners. So I think, James, Devin, Kim, who are on with us, really can speak to a lot of the on the ground work. As far as what kind of initiatives are coming from the city's side, I like to think about it in kind of priority populations. So we have youth, seniors, and then low income individuals and families. So for youth, we have grab and go meals across 38 school sites in the city. That's doing really well. There are averaging about 2,500 to 3,000 meals distributed per day. The meals are distributed Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You get 2 days meals every time you come to pick up. And we have some cool resources on the city website, like an interactive map and kind of a summary of these programs. For seniors, the Elderly Services Department, along with community partner Vertical Church and LifeBridge CT, have been providing food pantry items as well as meal deliveries throughout the city to seniors who have been calling in to the Elderly Services Department. Thousands of bags of food have been distributed and thousands of meals have been delivered to seniors to this date. For low-income families and individuals, there are several programs that are in the works. I'm working on specifically expanding some cool new initiatives through private sector partners, specifically for those who utilize SNAP benefits. And this comes at a really timely moment because we are now approved by the USDA. Connecticut can access pandemic EBT, which allows for extra benefits to SNAP users and those who are newly joining SNAP. And yeah, I'll leave it at that and we can dig in more, but I definitely defer to all my co-panelists to some of the details of the community work.
Perfect. And Lethal, just before we go to them, someone's just tuning in with radio, although the shows are archived and recorded, we can send this out to various folks, but if someone has to leave, and if they might want to contact you for further information, what's your recommendation, the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so you could give me a call at my number, which is 203-946-5194. You can also reach me by email. That's lswamy, LSWAMY, at newhavenct.gov.
Great, tremendous. And James and Kim and Devin, just before we come to you, Lethal, just one other question. You mentioned the school, being able to pick up the meals at school during those 3 days during the week. That's so tremendous. Do you know, is that going to go through the end of June, or is it going to go through the summer, or still under discussion? Because so much is up in the air, and I'm just really perplexed and confused, and I'm trying to stay optimistic, but it's such a nice service that you're providing for folks to be able to pick up the food at the school. you know if that's going to go through like June 20th, the so-called end of school day, or whether it's going to even extend through the summer?
Yeah, so I know, we are actively working on figuring. Oh, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah,
so we're actively working
on.
Okay. So we are working on making sure that those meals are provided throughout the summer. There may have been updates since I last spoke to the food service director of schools and the COO. So as you know, we are utilizing the summer food service program to provide meals during this pandemic. So those details are probably being worked out for the future. And the intention is to have these meals provided throughout the summer. We're just working on it on the federal.
Tremendous. James, let's jump in and introduce yourself a little bit. Again, yourself and Kim and Devin are really the troopers on the battlefield and the boots on the ground, so to speak, as Lothar has indicated. So James, let's hear a little bit from you.
Sure. Thank you so much for having us today, Tom. I really appreciate it. This topic's really needs to be covered, and people need to understand the need and the breadth and the depth. And I know you had talked a little bit earlier about the word emergency, and we're all part of the emergency food system. And, for a long time, we've talked about, what does that word emergency mean? If someone has been coming to our pantry for 10 years, is that really an emergency? And that seems more like a chronic problem, and we can address that later. And I know Lothar has some great ideas about how to address that over the long term. But what we've been doing, I'm James Kramer. I'm the executive director of Loaves and Fishes, and we're New Haven's largest food pantry. And what we've been doing in the immediate need is we've seen a dramatic uptick in the folks who are coming to visit us. We have our pantry every Saturday morning from 9 to 10:30. This past week, we saw 602 families come to us for food. We were able to give them all food. And then what we've been able to do is through the Coordinated Food Assistance Network, which Devin's a part of and Kim is also a part of. And really what I'd like to highlight today is all the folks who aren't on the call, is the collaboration effort that has gone on. What was that? Sorry.
If you could just repeat
that. The collaboration effort that's gone on to really muted. Yeah, okay. So I think my internet's going out. So the Food Assistance Network, CFAN as we call it. So that's a group of emergency food providers. It's also a group of community activists like Witnesses to Hunger, other concerned citizens are on it. But really what we've done is we've come together as a group to try to support each other and share resources, share food, share ideas on how to address the problem. And one of the biggest things that's come out of this is we've started a delivery program through CFAN. And this past week, out of Loaves and Fishes, we delivered almost 500 different families. Desk is part of that, the Downtown Evening Soup Kitchen, their food pantry, and the Keefe Center in Hampden. And we're slowly bringing on other folks. And we're looking to get the deliveries up to 1,000 or 1,500 families across the city. And so this past week at Loaves and Fishes, we gave groceries to 1,090 families. So that's our Saturday total, along with our weekly delivery total. And that network is sharing PPE between each other. They're sharing ideas about how to procure more food because some of the supply chain has been disrupted, especially the USDA commodities through the food bank. And the food bank's been working tirelessly to get us more food. And so we've also been trying to help folks like Devin. I'd love to hear what he has to say. Devin's been an absolute champion in New Hallville with the group that he's working with in terms of bringing pantries online having them occur. So a lot of pantries in New Haven only happen once a month, and I'll let him tell his story because they have done such a wonderful job of getting food to folks in New Hallville. So I'll turn it over to Doug. He's the expert.
Well, actually, James, let me still drill down on you a little bit. We'll give the beauty of the show is we have another 30 minutes to go, so everybody will get their fair share. If someone's listening, James, how can they reach out to you, and we'll be located again?
Sure. So we're located on the corner of Chapel and Olive Street.
Okay.
Sure.
That's St.
We're
Paul,
located
St.
on the
James.
corner of Chapel and Olive Street. We're operated out of the St. Paul and St. James Church. Folks can come to us between 9 and 10:30 on Saturday mornings for the food pantry, and people can get in contact with me. The best way is through email, and so it's kind of a long email. It's jkramer, JCRAMER at loavesandfishesnh.com. So it's LOAVESANDFISHESNH.com. And so feel free to contact us. We're more than happy to bring on new partners, new folks to talk about how to get food to our neighbors who need it the most.
That's great. And Tevin and Kim, just hold your mule, as they say, and stay patient. I guess I have one other follow-up question for James. And I'm glad you referenced that we've kind of not exploited, but this word emergency really doesn't matter, is not true. Chronic and maybe embedded and perpetual, but we don't want to think people are going to be poor with us forever. But James, talk about that a little bit, given your experience and of this, how this crisis has either exacerbated or revealed the issues, because I want to jump real quickly with you to everything I'm reading, 2020, 2021, 2022, at the minimum for people to still feel food deprived, even global, not to mention globally, but still even here in urban centers.
Yeah, so normally, to give you an idea, pre-COVID, and we're talking pre and post, not post-COVID, but during COVID, pre-COVID, we had anywhere between 300 and 425 families come to us during a month. It's an average of about 350 to come to us for food. And we also have a clothing closet, which is shut down right now. But there's a huge need in the city, and we know that there's a huge need. Some neighborhoods have as high as 33% food insecurity. That means once a month that somebody doesn't know where one of their meals is going to come from. That's giant, and to me that's unacceptable for a city with such affluence and a city with such resources. And so we know we've talked to our folks anecdotally, and we've also done several surveys, and we know what folks are coming to us for is they're coming to us for basically what it is rent relief. They don't have enough money to pay rent. They don't have enough money to turn their heat on. They don't have enough money to buy their kids' school clothes. And so what we're doing is we're a little bit of a relief valve, not a large relief valve, but folks can come to us and get food, and they can save that money, and then they can use that money for the things that they need. Diapers, just regular things that folks need.
Great. And Devin, just hold your mule, practice your patience. Let's give we're alternating male, female, so let's go to Kim. And around 10:19, on 10:40 or so, I want to dive in use the remaining 10 minutes in terms of solutions and what needs to happen so we can plant some seeds that we won't have to still have the same conversation 5 years from now. But Kim, I kind of share a little bit about your involvement, and your name's been referenced, and really glad to have you on the call.
Well, thank you, Tom. Yes, my name is Kim Hart, and I am one of the track chairs for our CFAN, Coordinated Food Access Network. I am also the site leader for Witnesses to Hunger New Haven chapter, and I'm also a member of New Haven Food Policy Council. So, and thank you for having us this morning. This is really, really important, and I'm glad that we have the spotlight. I am not a food provider or anything like that, but I am an active participant, if you will, using food pantries because my income isn't what I want it to be. My rent is way more than it should be. And I have an 18-year-old teenager boy who can eat. My God, can the boy eat? So what I do is I'm out here. Because we are on the ground, because we are experiencing this, because we are utilizing the food pantry, we're here to lend our voice as to the best practices, as to what's working and what's not working. And, because number one, New Haven is very siloed, and we have been since the early 70s, I would say. We're no longer one big community anymore like we were when I was growing up. And so with that, so now everyone lives in their own part, and they just, do their own thing, and we're not sharing information and stuff. I live in the Beaver Hills section of New Haven on Sherman Avenue and on Sherman near Gulf Street. And a lot of my neighbors right now today don't know about the different food pantries that are going on. They don't know about the rent moratorium that's going on, that's happening. And the thing is that there are plenty of resources, in New Haven, plenty of places to get food. But if you don't know, you don't know. Mm-hmm. So what I would,
No, I was just
okay. So you
agreeing with you.
Oh yeah. My in an ideal world that every hungry family in New Haven will not have to be hungry, that they will be able to access food somewhere, somehow. And I am just more, I love the way Devin and Newhartville is working. They're working like a well-oiled machine and stuff. And I am, I'm from Newhartville, and I just left New Orleans Reed about 6 years ago after living there for many, 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 many years. And so I'm like, so they got it together. But what can we do for other communities so that we can also get together, so that we can also get the word out? Because like James said, like Lathar says, we have plenty of resources here. We just have to get people to utilize them.
Indeed. And hope we can just keep our optimism up and kind of remain proactive. Devin, your name has been mentioned a few times, man. Your name has been mentioned a few times. You have some good publicists out here. You must be paying your PR people a lot. Whatever advertising agency you're using is a good one. I'm gonna have to jump on that bandwagon. But chat to us. I know you have some upcoming. You sent me the schedule last night of the flyer, and kind of share with us. Again, we have a good 20 minutes, so we can still kind of walk through some things.
Thank you very much for having us all, Tom, and thank you, James, Lathar, and Kim very much. So yes, I'm Devin, and I'm representing Newhartville Community Action Network. I have to give thanks first and foremost to my team, Kim Harris of Inspired Communities, Inc., and Sam Fawcett of Neighborhood RX. The three of us were the ones who really bootstrapped this effort to get food to folks in Newhartville. And so, yes, we have a number of food distribution events coming up. Just to start with that, on Friday, 5/15 at New Haven Church of Christ on 16 Gem Street, 4 to 5, we'll be giving groceries out. Every Saturday, you can get food at Breakthrough Church, 481 Shelton Avenue, 12 to 2. And Thursday, 5/21, at Believe in Me on 423 Dixwell Avenue from 4 to 6 p.m. And just to give a little bit of information as to how all of this started, Kim, Sam, and I, we saw the need. We saw that people in New Hallville were struggling. New Hallville is, I would say, the most food insecure neighborhood in New Haven, along the highest as far as poverty goes. And so we just put our heads together and said, well, what can we do to get food out to the people? And at the time, all of our food pantries were closed, primarily because folks were not certain how they could safely operate during the COVID-19 pandemic. So what we did was we put together a model, which was the drive up, fill up and go, or walk up, fill up and go model. And we went and started having conversations with the pantries in our neighborhood. To date, we have 5 online and fully operational, and we'll be bringing one more on next week. Our goal is to reactivate as many food pantries as possible, providing them with the tools and the resources they need to serve the people on a consistent basis. And so that's basically been our goal. Up till as of 5/2, we provided 2,316 bags of groceries to the community, and that has actually totaled 46,012 meals, because we do about 5 meals per bag, and each meal feeds 4 people. So we're doing this all volunteer basis. I'm actually at work right now, just clocked out to speak with you all, but it's important. And our goal is sustainability. We want to see what we're doing now extend even past this pandemic, and we want to help branch out and share our model with other neighborhoods in New Haven.
Tremendous. Devin, share a little bit about how people can access those dates again. I know you shared the flyer with me. How is the flyer available? How can they find out information?
Absolutely. If you were to go on, if you have Facebook, go on New Hallville Community Action Network. The flyer is posted there. Also, you could email New Hallville Community Action at gmail.com. You can also call me at 860-778-0051, and I will personally forward a flyer to you. Again, this is a really grassroots effort, so it's a small group of people getting all this information out, but we're glad to share.
And James, were you just scratching your head, or you had a question? I didn't know whether you were going to do it. Some people raised. You were just scratching.
I was just scratching. Sorry.
Okay. Devin, talk to me a little bit more about. Are you open to volunteers? I know you mentioned the fabulous 3, Foster and Kim. But are you open as well to people volunteer? How can people? If someone that hears the show wants to get involved, contribute money, contribute time, contribute food. What's the deal there?
Absolutely, all of the above. We are in desperate need of volunteers. So the information I gave out before, please feel free to reach out if you'd like to volunteer. Also, Kim Harris, she's out of Harrison Tucker School. You can show up there as well, and she'd be glad to take folks' information. But we need volunteers for all of our events. We're in need of funding. We fundraise for First Calvary Baptist Church because they are not a CT food bank pantry. So our last event, we fundraised $5,000 and went and purchased food for the people. So any kind of donation of either funds or food, bags, boxes, they're all welcome.
Tremendous. Lafa and Kim and James and Devin, let's jump into this midterm and long-term solution driven. I mean, it's my pause is based because it's tough for me to remain optimistic because I'm reading so many economic forecasts, but I want to remain optimistic, and certainly sometimes it's easy to get lost in the global issues. But just here in New Haven, what do you think we need to do to kind of plant the seeds for sustainability, for economic viability, for folks not to be, I'm so tired of hearing these terms that you guys have been living in terms of deprivation and and folks being deprived. So let's jump for a little bit in terms of blue sky and creative thinking, things that need to happen, and to the extent that you're willing to really let your mind be free in the expression. Do we need to tax such and such? Do we need to look at the property value, the reliance on property? Do we need to look at what schools are, what the meaning of education even means in terms of food justice, and or do we need to grow more gardens? But let's just talk a little bit about because you're right there on the ground. I'm curious what you say. It's such a you're being servant driven at the moment. But I'm curious to kind of where you see the seeds that you're planting now, how you want to see those bloom and blossom for everyone's benefit. Latha, would you want to jump in first? I know we have a lag.
Yeah.
Latha,
Yeah.
did you hear me a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's easy to be awed at the scale of kind of the humanitarian endeavor that is rolling out across the landscape. And, you know, obviously that's with appreciation for the community spirit that's manifesting, you know, especially around donations of cash and food and volunteer time. But I think that it's really important to also think about the inequities that are fueling this like massive demand and what that kind of implies for the future of eliminating hunger in America. You know, I think we have to think about, you know, and this is a longer discussion, but thinking about the anti-hunger industrial complex and how there are kind of certain relationships that are perpetuating this reliance on the emergency food system. As James alluded to earlier, there's like the chronic emergency food system, but then right now we're in an acute situation. So I think one thing that I would think about is thinking about the idea of placing less burden on the emergency food system and thinking about more the responsibility of government in some of this. So one of the things that I'm working on is specifically seeing how we can support issues around those who are utilizing SNAP benefits and developing programming and supports with that. Because as we see this thing move forward, as you know, like millions more people are applying for unemployment, and that means millions more people are likely to apply for SNAP benefits. So I think that's one thing that could really provide some support on this side of needing food assistance. I would really like to see, you know, more policies around supporting urban agriculture and land access and acquisition during this time. I think those are also ideas around like food sovereignty in especially urban areas. And so that's actually something I'm starting to, or have been working on, but kind of pivoted for COVID-19. I'm continuing to work on as far as from the city's perspective. I think I'll leave it at those 2 points. I think those are kind of mid to long-term things that we can focus on as we see the economy kind of take on additional burden and basically take a dip during this time.
Great.
I'd like to
thank you
jump
so
in
much. That's so
there.
helpful. Just before is James, just hold that point just 1 second. So the thought with the common ground, is that kind of a model that you'd like to see expanded? The common ground concept, that kind of educational concept? A common ground school?
Yeah, I think that is a great idea and kind of a great model to kind of expand to other areas. I think, you know, we really have to think about food justice deeply in those examples and think about, you know, who's leading that kind of programming. So I think that, you know, we really want to see more Black, Indigenous, people of color leading on some of these initiatives because there is a lot to be learned. A lot of, you know, systemic injustices have oppressed some of that work. And I think that highlighting some of that is also important in kind of sharing these kind of models around, that it's not always white led.
Perfect. Thank you, James. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I guess since that LaFawn still had a few more bullets to shoot, so I wanted to give her the chance to express them. LaFawn, thank you, James. You wanted to jump in?
Yeah, no, and I really appreciate what Latha was saying.
Please.
And I think that's something that the city of New Haven has an opportunity right now to start listening to people of color and what their perspective is and what their opinion is, and not getting in their way. And far too many times pre-COVID, I found myself in rooms that are almost exclusively white and having conversations about the emergency food system. And we just know demographically who's accessing the emergency food system is not exclusively white. And so why are those rooms like that? And why is the money being given to folks into rooms who are exclusively white? And so I think those are bigger conversations that need to come out of the long term. But what I will say is that the Coordinated Food Assistance Network is something that I think is going to continue to grow. And the folks who are involved in that is a real reflection of who's in the city and who's accessing the pantries and the soup kitchens. And so like people like the United Way have been leaders, the Community Alliance for Research and Engagement, NICE. I'm going to give out some shout outs. Jamila Rashid in the Hill, Cathedral of Higher Praise, Pastor Boone, Vertical Church has been champions, Vox Church has been great, Haven's Harvest has delivered millions of pounds of food to folks. The city, Yale has even stepped up in providing some funding. But what I would like to do is tease out something that Devin was talking about. And at Loaves and Fishes, normally I'm the only paid employee and we've hired somebody else to help us with the deliveries right now. But why are all of these organizations almost exclusively volunteer driven? And so on a Saturday morning, normally pre-COVID, we have about 40 to 50 volunteers to help us run our services. And that's a huge question I'd like to ask. And it's something that I think the government can be held accountable for is, why is it taking Devin, clocking out of work, volunteering his time? Why? And why is it taking us 40 to 50 volunteers? And I'm really happy for our volunteers, and I'm so appreciative about how passionate they are with helping folks in New Haven. But why does it take such a tremendous private effort to get folks fed in a country that is filled with such riches? And I think it speaks volumes, and I don't think a lot of folks understand who are outside of the emergency food system how many volunteers it takes to run the efforts that we're doing, and why is that? Yeah, so that's a question that I'd like to see answered in the long term.
Well, James, what is if you were the king of the world, you know, if you're the Grand Poobah, the Pope, I'm not sure what whatever your ideological basis is, the czar. So what needs to happen? Is it like a domestic peace corps? What government officials? What needs to happen?
I mean, I think that local, state, and federal governments need to take more accountability for the food insecurity problem. And I also think that ideas that Latha were talking about, food sovereignty, folks growing their own food, making educational opportunities, getting folks connected more to their food, and having those efforts be led by people of color is going to be something that's going to change the world. So people over at CT Core, I know Raven, over at Love Fed, I'm remembering everyone's names. She's doing amazing work. And so those kind of folks, we need to be figuring out how to get them funding and propping them up, and they're propping themselves up. They don't need to be propped up. They're doing a wonderful job. So I think it's supporting local efforts like that. That's what's going to change the game for this.
And Devin, thanks so much, James. Devin, just before I come to you, Kim, you had alluded to, and I think I keep on hearing that resonating about the silos and the lack of collaboration. And then we just heard a little bit about why that's still needed. Kim, so are you there, Kim?
Yes, I'm here.
So say a little bit more after hearing Latha's and Devin and James. Do you think we're approaching more cohesion, or are we still separate and apart and sometimes fighting against one another?
Well, me personally, I think that, yeah, that we are on our way. We haven't arrived yet, but we are on our way and stuff. And I believe that, see, because the people, I mean, like and this is my favorite phrase, and I got it from my mother, you just don't know what you don't know. And like, people who live over here in Beaver Hills don't know that they're welcome in New Hallville. You know what I mean? And so, therefore, even if they know about it, which I doubt they do anyway, but if they know about it, they, well, that's not my neighborhood. That's, they probably want to use that just for New Hallville residents and stuff, or Church in the Hill or whatever, because Beaver Hills, as you know, is a mixed social and economic community. We have a little bit of everybody here. And so that makes it hard too, yeah. And one of the things that I think that is holding us back from accessing these places is shame, embarrassment, but my father always told me, if you're gonna be embarrassed, be embarrassed in a full stomach. You know what I mean? In other words, don't let that stop you from eating. Because I'm just gonna say this. I'm diverting just a little bit. I'm just gonna say this. I know we only got 15 minutes stuff, but when we had the cheese line and the bread line and the pizza and the peanut butter, at different places, my mother would make me go with her so they can get twice the stuff, right? Because and I was so I'm like, Mom, please don't make me do this. But she said, you know what, Kim, we need it, and it's going to be embarrassing in the full stomach. And so, I mean, I get it, but I mean, I don't really know. If we haven't arrived, but it would be nice if we all can come together as one big community, as one New Haven, and just rally around each other and let each other know that we are not alone,
Good.
And
yes.
so I hope I answered the question, because sometimes I get so excited until and I go over my rants and I forget what the question is.
You not only answered my one question, but you answered 5 other questions that I had in my mind. So 5 to 6. That's so key. Devin, in terms of solutions for the future, it's a policy changes, government intervention, the industrial food complex. I mean, LaFaw kind of laid it out early 10 minutes ago. That's another show, LaFaw. We got to get you guys back on. But even when Stop and Shop, just to give us a moment to think, as we can go about 3 or 4 more minutes. When Stop and Shop went on strike, just the number of people in the community that I saw supporting the strike because they were supporting the workers there, that really just amazed me. That I think people are being more sensitive to who our essential workers are, and who's really picking, who's really, to use a proverbial expression, who's really picking the cotton and not really benefiting from the shirts and fabrics that are made. So, but Devin, just as we think about the future, certainly today you're doing things, tomorrow you're doing things, but what does need to change, or whether we have to go to more automatic meetings, or we have to pass resolutions, or, I mean, LaFaw's mentioned having the continue through the summer program and summer meals, but you just wonder what thoughts in your dreams, if you were king, the same question as for James, if you were king of the world, czar of the world, what would you like to see? What kind of impact would you like to see?
Well, I certainly have to first co-sign with pretty much everything that LaThaw said, James said, and Kim said. I am in full agreement. And before I directly answer the question, just going back a little bit to what Kim was talking about folks, being maybe nervous to come to a different neighborhood to get food.
Yeah.
I want to let everyone know, come to New Hallville. our doors are always open. As a matter of fact, we've served families from every neighborhood in New Haven thus far, including East Haven, West Haven,
Mm,
Amity, Hamden, and someone's come from as far as Bridgeport.
mm.
So we're certainly here for everyone, and we want to share our knowledge with everyone. And to go to the question at hand, in New Hallville, it starts with the seed being the people, and the seed being literal seeds, that talking about that food sovereignty aspect. We're looking to really take advantage of the green spaces that we have, and we're looking to increase green spaces. We're looking to partner with orgs like Gather New Haven in order to really make the most out of those community gardens that we have. And in long term, we're looking to set up some brick and mortar sites that can just be long-standing places where people can get free food.
Mm-hmm.
I think on a policy level, it will require sort of like what James was talking about. We have to be in those rooms. I'm so thankful for CFAN, the Coordinated Food Assistance Network, because simply as a concerned citizen, I was able to get on these calls and get access to the people that we need to speak to in order to obtain the information, the resources that we need to continue the operation of neighborhood folks simply feeding their other neighbors. So I think that it's a multifaceted approach. It's going to have to be taken. But
Mm-hmm.
if I can think of the two most important things to me, if I was king, it would
All
be
right.
the seed. We need farm to table in our food insecure neighborhoods, and we need a seat at the table
Mm,
in this
mm,
meeting.
We're kind of winding up, and LaFaw, I want to give you the last word, but you guys have referenced CFAN. If someone wants some more information about CFAN, does anyone know the best way that if I just heard this acronym for the first time, how I can get involved, find more information about CFAN, how I maybe can help? Who can answer that question? Anyone? Does anyone know how to read CFAN?
Give me 2 seconds. I'm so sorry. So there is a website.
Yeah.
And Lathot, do you know the website?
Yeah, that's what I was just looking up as well.
Yeah, that's what I was looking up too. So
Okay.
if Lathot,
CFAN.org.
LaFaw, repeat it again, please.
CFANNewhaven.org.
Perfect. LaFaw, let me give you the last word, and James and Devin and Kim, let's try to do this again. I'm just, the show every morning on Mondays at 10 o'clock I gotta be personal. It's very therapeutic for me. It helps me to kind of fight my doldrums. And so I want to thank you for kind of to lift me up. And LaFaw, I want to give you the last word as we kind of conclude. And again, Kim and Devin and James, really thank you for joining us. And again, I'll send everybody the link for you to share the show with folks. And let's do it again, and just keep in mind that we do have media resources here available for us. And so we want to kind of maximize it and blow that trumpet loud and clear that food justice is not just an acronym or a phrase of the moment, but really is part of our entitlement as human beings on the planet. LaFaw?
Yeah, I think I want to emphasize all the work that everyone's doing on this call on the ground. Really coming together and meeting the people's needs. I think it's also really important to kind of reiterate the acute versus chronic issues and thinking about, there's a real immediate need, and emergency food providers are doing so much. And there is a great burden on emergency food providers. I think long term, we really need to think about the root causes and systemic injustices that led to these vulnerabilities in the first place. And I think we, especially in my work, right? So it's food policy. I would like to really focus on policies, upstream policies that mitigate the need for these things in the first place. And so that we really get at the root cause, like thinking about fair wages, thinking about housing policy, how all of these affect food insecurity. and how, shoring up policies around those issues can really impact issues around food insecurity and hunger.
Tremendous. Thank you so much. So we're abolitionists, Lethal, right? We're abolitionists. We want to abolish poverty. That's great. The moral majority. Let's make it happen. Thank you so much, Harry. Thank you as well. And again, this Zoom kind of thing is still kind of, sometimes I know my internet kind of goes in and out, and who knows, the internet might just explode with so much with it being used, but let's not wish that to happen. But thank you, everyone. Harry, thank you. We're going to close out with one of my theme songs, which is Never Give Up. And everyone keep inspired us. You have certainly inspired me this morning. So thanks again.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for having us. It was a pleasure.
Kim, take care.
Yeah.
Take care. Devin, take care.
Yeah. As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going. Better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road, lights, camera, action, I'm ready to go. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, hey. Night to dawn, I right my wrongs alone. In competition with warnings, ice galore. Now I'm running toward it, my lights unfinished, being a quitter. But little by little, they joking, telling some riddles. Now I'm in my section, ain't willing to give up. Know you getting knocked down, but you gotta get up. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, hey. Cause this is my road, lights, camera, action, I'm ready to go. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, hey. Yeah, this is my road, lights, camera, action, I'm ready to go.